Join me in welcoming Arlene McLaren. Hey, Arlene, how are you doing today?
Hey, Steve, I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of your program.
Absolutely. So, your book is called 10 Secrets to Overcoming Fear and Getting Unstuck After COVID 19. But before we talk about your book, tell us just a little bit about who you are and how you show up in the world.
Well, I am a life coach and a business consultant, which means that I help people to move forward in their business, their project, or their endeavor. So, a couple of years ago, I was flying high. I had worked in politics and I was recruited out of 300 people to go clear across the country to take a position as director of a chamber of commerce. And I had been director of several other chambers and president of other chambers. And after working there, the board of directors changed and I got fired. And not only did I get fired, Steve, but my picture was on the front page of the newspaper and it said across my face, fired. And so I was stuck. And it really just took me a while to just get up. That morning, I was supposed to do a presentation for the Kiwanis Club, and I just couldn't go. I physically couldn't get up. And then shortly thereafter, my mom passed away, and then I was really stuck. And it took me a while to just get up and move forward. And finally, I went to a conference, which is where I met you, and found out about how to move forward. And after that, I started writing these 10 secrets that helped me to move forward. And that's how we got to where we are today, which is the book, 10 Secrets to Overcoming Fear, Getting Unstuck, and also living your best life. I think that's a key piece that I have learned to begin to live my best life.
So, let's talk about living your best life. What does that mean?
Well, as I mentioned a couple of years ago, I wasn't living in my ideal location. Now I am. I'm living in a place that I always wanted to be, which is California. I have my perfect partner now, which I didn't have before. I'm not as worried about my kids because they're in a better situation, doing well. And I'm just learning to take things as they are and as they come and believe that no matter where I am now, things are constantly getting better and moving forward. And I just need to realize that and remember that.
So, you have 10 secrets to get unstuck. And people have to get the book in order to get all 10 of them. But much like I'm asking you which of your children is your favorite, which is totally unfair, what is or which one of the 10 comes to mind as your favorite right now in this minute?
Okay, so I put the secrets in order of importance, but the favorite one I would say is proximity. And proximity is this concept of getting close to the thing that you want the most. So even if you're not able to bask in the ideal thing that you want now, you get as close to it as you possibly can. You get around the people who are doing the things that you want to do. You begin to become aware of your surroundings and how best you can put the pieces of the puzzle together. So I'll give you an example. When I was really distressed and really distraught after I was stuck and in that situation, I went from New York City to a conference in California, in San Diego. And I was there in the beautiful sunshine and I was around the ocean and I was around people who had successful businesses, people like yourself who were joyful and happy and just so kind. And I began to see the possibility in my own life of my manifesting some of the things that I saw in you guys. And so I think proximity is powerful because it helps us to shift not only mentally, but physically into the possibilities, into where we can be. So I love proximity because of that.
I think the opposite of that is true too. When we're in proximity of really icky stuff and really bad people, it has an impact on us too.
Right. Right. So my life before that, like I said, I worked in politics, and anybody can flip on the TV and see how challenging politics is when you look at what's happening out there. But when you actually work with these people, some of them, and you're around them all the time, and when you work in politics, you eat it, sleep it, breathe it, you begin to think that the world is all, mean and cutthroat and everybody's after you. And if they're not after you, they're after somebody who you're trying to help. And so you start to sort of live in this fearful place that, I heard Donald Trump years before he was president. He said at a talk at Jacob Javits, he was like, get them before they get you. And it's almost like, even though consciously I know that's not true, because I was around so many people that were pushing that narrative, I began to live in that place. So proximity is important in that once I came to this other location, I'm just going to be honest with you. The first day I was at that conference, I put my jacket on the lady in front of me's chair. And she turned around and looked at me. And I fully expected her to, just be disgusted or say something ill about why did I put my jacket on her chair, or can I move my jacket, please? But instead, she adjusted the jacket for me and smiled at me. And just that kind gesture, it was a small thing, but it just touched me because it was completely the opposite of what I had been living in. They get them before they get you, the harshness and the angst. It was just so kind and loving that I just shifted and I really started to cry. And it just reminded me of how important it is to be around kind, loving people as much as possible, and just put yourself in the space of what you want to manifest.
Makes a huge difference. And I think it's really interesting that, you bring COVID-19 into the title of it, because it got to the place, I don't know about for you, but I know for me, it got to the place where you almost couldn't turn on the television because there was just bombarding ick,
Absolutely. That is so true, Steve. And that was when I wrote the book. I wrote the book during COVID-19, when we were all on lockdown, and this concept that we didn't know what was going to happen, and we needed to find hope in a hopeless situation at the time. And so I'm just I had the book in the back of my mind for years, but during that time, I was thinking of the people who may have been stuck and in my situation and may not have had company with them, or may not have had, the experience in San Diego that I had around all the wonderful people. I needed to put something together that would be light and salt, that would be encouragement, that would be concrete tools to help people to move forward despite the challenges that were going on at that time. So I really, believe that the steps, these incremental steps, will help people to move forward like they did help me to move forward despite COVID-19. And now we're out and we're moving forward in a bigger, brighter, and better way, but we are still on the journey. And so the tips will be helpful.
Let's talk a little bit about that stuckness. It's easy to get stuck to the point where we kind of like being stuck. I hate to say it that way, but it really kind of is that way. You know what I mean? What do we do when we're just kind of happy being stuck?
It's interesting you say that we're happy with it, because it's like a comfort zone. And when you're stuck for a while, like I was during my mom's situation and after the job situation, I just didn't want to hurt. And the public firing was so painful and so hurtful. It was like violent. And I just didn't want to put myself in a situation like that again, where people could, come against me with such angst. And so I was comfortable doing nothing. And it really required some proximity, or it really required some outside movement so that I could begin to move forward. And it wasn't a big step. The first step is clarity, and just getting up and just doing a little walk and going outside, and like they say, smelling a rose, just starting with those small incremental pieces until we get stronger and stronger and stronger and utilize all of the secrets to move forward in a big way. So for me, it really just started with going outside and walking, especially since we were coming through COVID-19 and everybody was on lockdown. That was the first step. At one point, I just decided I must go outside, and I love to run. And so I started walking, and then I started running. And then the next thing I knew, I was doing 6 miles, and I was out of the woods, as they say. Yeah.
That's impressive. So that's a great segue to help people out. So for a person who is still stuck back in lockdown mode, let's just call it that. What can they do? What's the thing they could do right now today to help them begin to get unstuck?
Well, the first step is, like I said, be clear. Be clear about what it is that we want to accomplish. When I was stuck, I kept focusing on the death of my mom. I kept focusing on how much I did not want to go back to that job. That was quite unsettling for me. And I needed to begin to be clear about what I did want and begin to focus on what I want and really see the possibilities. So I think that's the first step. Knowing where you want to go, which is why I say clarity is the first step. And then visualization, which is not just knowing, but then actually seeing the end from the beginning and visualizing yourself in that position. So I had to visualize myself being in California. I lived in New York City, and that's where I spent most of my time. Well, all of my time at that juncture. And I started talking with people who lived in California, people like yourself and other friends who were in different parts of the state. And I wasn't here yet, but the more I spoke with them and the more I visualized myself being there, eventually I came to visit. And eventually, I started connecting with people who were here permanently. And then my conversation with others was about how much I wanted to move to California. And it's so funny because then I was meeting other people who also were in New York City that wanted to California. And that's another thing that's amazing. Once we become clear about what we want, it's like we start seeing the pieces of the puzzle come together. So before I started talking about California, I really don't recall ever having a conversation with people about how much I loved Cali and wanted to move to Cali. But little by little, the pieces of the puzzle just started to come together as I became more clear. And then the third thing is actually that momentum. And you'll notice, Steve, that I didn't say write it down. So a lot of people start with planning and plotting and how they're going to do it, and they're writing and they're planning and they're strategizing. But I didn't start with that. And for me, being stuck, it's easy for me to plot and plan and write on paper, and I could write from now till next year and never really do anything. So the first step for me was really being clear, and then visualizing it, and then having that momentum, where I actually got up and started moving forward. So I would say those are the first three things that I had to.
That's good stuff. And the book is called 10 Secrets to Overcome Fear and Getting Unstuck After COVID-19. You can get it today for free on Amazon. I just put the link in there for those of you that didn't see it in the description. Arlene, for somebody who wants to go deeper with you, they want to obviously get the book, but then they want to go deeper with you, how could a person get in contact with you?
Well, I would love for you to contact me through my website. It is www.askarleneshow.com. Show that airs on Thursdays. I can be reached through YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, but also just give me a call, nice and simple. It's 413-400-0762. And we have several programs. I have a program with the same name as the book. It's about overcoming fear, getting unstuck, and really just how to live your best life. Because at this point, I really feel like that's what we need to focus on. We need to focus on winning at the game of life. We need to focus on moving forward and getting unstuck. I mean, last year, 2020, was so challenging for us because of, being on lockdown, just the fear and not being sure of what would happen. And so now it's time for us to live our best lives. And so that's what the program is about, walking you through the next year and just looking incrementally at how we can move forward with whatever project or endeavor it might be that you want to move forward with. I really would hope that, that person would contact me and allow me to help you to move forward from the situation because, I was there. I'm much, much happier with the situation that I'm in now, utilizing the 10 secrets and overcoming my fears and getting unstuck and, just living in California and living my best life.
I love it. Well, do get the book 10 Secrets to Overcoming Fear and Getting Unstuck After COVID-19 by Arlene McLaren. Arlene, thanks so much for spending some time with us on the show here today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And I hope that I will be invited back at some other juncture. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye, Steve.